Hello everyone, welcome to another video. And in this video, we are going to discuss chapter number 20. It's the last chapter of the book, and the title of the chapter is Confessions. And in this chapter, the author Morgan Housel basically tells us how he manages his money, or his psychology of money, how he makes the decisions. And before we delve into that, the author has one important point to make basically. And to highlight that point, we're going to look at Mr. Sandy Gottesman, who is a billionaire investor who founded the consulting firm First Manhattan. And whenever he's interviewing people for his company, he usually asks them one question: what do you own and why? And this is a very interesting question in the sense that the that he's basically asking the interviewees that what do you actually do with your own money? And this also highlights the fact that there is a big gap between what makes sense, which is what people actually tell you to do, and what feels right to them, which is what they actually do. You would be surprised to know that half of the US mutual funds managers, they don't even have a single cent invested in their in those funds that they are managing. This is according to the Morningstar report, and this basically highlights the hypocrisy, right? And then there is another thing that would be also a bit surprising to you guys, is the way the doctors actually prefer to die, how they want to die basically. So there is an essay written by Ken Murray, who is a professor of medicine at USC, and he wrote an essay called "How Doctors Die." And that essay basically highlights that even though the doctors have the access to the same treatments, or if not better treatments, but they still prefer to take out the easy way. Um, they they want to go gently basically. So if they are treating a cancer patient, probably they would throw everything at it. But when it comes to them, they would probably choose a palliative care for themselves. And the thing is that this difference between what people actually tell you to do and what they actually do uh, is not actually bad. And the reason behind that is when it comes to things that are complicated and emotional, like yourself and your families, there is no right answer. There is no universal truth to that basically. What probably works for one person might not work for another person, right? And yeah, keeping this in mind, we're gonna look into how the author's family manages his money. And yeah, and for the author and his family, the main goal for them is basically being independent, being financially independent. He doesn't care about the highest returns. They don't care about leveraging their assets to to get the luxurious life. Those things actually don't have any interest to them. They don't have any interest in them. So whatever they do financially is basically to ensure that they're going to be independent, and everything they do is tailored towards that goal. Then we're going to look at the now we're going to look at the story of his father actually. His family was not very rich; they were actually poor, and they went from and his father basically decided that he's going to improve his financial situation, and he decided to become a doctor at the age of 40. But even after becoming a doctor, one thing that basically remained the same from his early days was his lifestyle, uh, his frugality, and the way he was saving money. And yeah, and that eventually kind of like ended up making him financially independent, because one day he wakes up and decides that this job is very stressful. He was a doctor in an emergency. So one day he woke up and decided that I'm not going to be a doctor anymore. I'm not going to be doing this job anymore. Um, so yeah, and then he chose something else to do. So when the author saw this, that his father has this level of freedom, that he can just wake up and do something else, then that idea really stuck to him. And that's when he decided that his financial goal in his life would just be to be financially independent. And yeah, and then he goes into like how do we get independence, and we have looked into this before as well. So it's basically comes down to living below your means, and increasing your saving rate, of course. uh, yeah, and then he goes into his own lifestyle, like when he was doing entry level jobs and his partner was doing entry level jobs. They had a very specific lifestyle which was not very luxurious, of course, because of the money amount of money they had. And yeah, and it was not too frugal as well. But over the years, even though they started making more money, their lifestyle basically remained the same. And the money that was coming with the high paying jobs actually went into their savings. So their saving rates kept on increasing and increasing. So sometimes the author says that he feels like, why is he saving so much? But then he reminds himself that the reason he's saving so much is because he wants to be independent. And then he comes back to his original goal. Um, yeah, and the author highlights that living under your means also kind of like frees you from from the social pressures that you get, like social pressures about what you should wear, what you should drive, where you should live, and all of those things. And when you adopt that kind of mentality, you don't basically care about those things anymore. Then the author goes into a few financial decisions that he has made, which probably won't make much sense to other people, but those things make sense to him, and that actually help him be more independent and sleep okay at night. So the first thing he has done is he doesn't have a mortgage. He has paid off his house, and that gives him the freedom that he doesn't have to make monthly payments to the banks, and he actually owns the house. So that is one thing that gives him a sense of security, a sense of independence, and he's not trying to justify it because he probably cannot justify it financially. And the other decision that he has made is that he keeps 20% of his assets in cash. And that also kind of like gives him the freedom that whenever some unpredictable situation comes, some unforeseen circumstances arise, then he doesn't have to sell his investments, he doesn't have to sell his stocks. So keeping that much amount of cash with him gives him that independence as well. And as we have seen, like if you don't touch your investments, if you don't touch your stocks, then you let compounding do its magic, and that's what he believes in, and that's what he sticks to. So yeah, this is the first part of the chapter. We're gonna have a second part as well, and that's gonna be the final video in this video series of Psychology of Money. Hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.